5'9" with the real red eyes, and we dying inside. Oh, bodies in fluoride.
What is good, y'all? This is JV here, and today got an album review for you guys. Highly anticipated record, highly requested, review for me to do. And I was gonna rush to a review because I really wanted to, speak my mind on this. I was super hyped about it, but I decided to delay the review a couple of days so I can, really sit with this album and familiarize myself with some of the records and, how I thought about the record as a whole. What we're talking about is Beenzino's new album, 12. My favorite Korean rapper, in the new game right now. He basically seems to drop records every other year, starting with 24-26 in 2012, Up All Night in 2014, and now we have 12. String of singles in between each record that we've gotten Break, and we are going to Daliban Picasso, which we'll get into all the records in a few. Gotta say though, I've been waiting for this record for the longest time. Did not know what to expect sound-wise. He's always kind of evolving and developing new things, but at the same time keeping that overall aesthetic kind of vibe to his music that is pretty much continued through his entire discography. If you're not super familiar with him, he is a Korean MC. I believe he debuted around 2009 as a solo artist on Primary's record. So he's doing some solid things since then. Signed to Illionaire, and so let's get into the record. Basically how I do it is I go track by track, give you guys my quick thoughts on each track, and then at the end give you guys my thoughts about the album as a whole. So first song here we have is Time Travel. It's super atmospheric. Cool thing about this record is that it's pretty much mid-tempo, but when those drums come in, we almost have kind of like a nuo vibe of like some boom bap stuff. It's like new wave boom bap to it, real like bouncy drums on it. He's definitely going for the bars in this one, but he definitely again has the melody. And if you're familiar with Beenzino music, what you've gotten on previous records, you're getting a lot here too. You're getting that melodic kind of delivery that he's basically kind of made his own and influenced a lot of these newer guys. So he's doing his melodic thing, but it's not as sing-songy as a lot of the rest of the record. And I have to say, compared to his previous records, there's a lot of singing on this from his half. You know what I mean? He's not doing necessarily like a Drake, like I'm singing choruses and then I'm rapping verses. It's more like, even in his verses, similar to a Young Thug, but not in a southern trap rap way. The fact that he's including melody and vocals into his bars. You know what I mean? Next we have the end of Saturday with Black Nut. Very interesting track. Did not know what to expect. I gotta say, Black Nut definitely kind of like adjusted his approach to this to really match Beenzino's kind of delivery. The production is up tempo. We get basically kind of like a hip house-ish kind of song here. It picks up in tempo. We have some kind of like EDM house kind of influences there. I definitely am getting like late 90s, club house vibes to it. Really interesting track on this. For the most part, I gotta say that this project is definitely a higher tempo than his previous records. It's a lot more moving, it's a lot more energetic, it's a lot more atmospheric than his previous projects. Then we have I Don't Mind. Love the chorus on this one. I think there's some really interesting stuff going on in terms of the drums again, and then some of the mixing on there, his approach on this, again the vocals. The cool thing about this record is that it's incredibly cohesive from track to track. Like you could literally like play this record, sit back and kind of just like vibe out, and there's no like crazy continuity breaks in between each track. It brings us into Flex in the next track where finally that bass starts rocking, and just like we got that track on his last project with Don Mills. He usually has these records with some like trap flavored instrumentation in it, and this is the moment in this record where we get it. The bass kind of rocks you in there. Again, it's super aesthetic and atmospheric. You get some ethereal kind of tones underneath there. We get January featuring YDG, which I think is one of the most intriguing tracks on the project. This is smooth, man. I would love to see a visual for this particular song, man. We're definitely getting like R&B vibes to it. It reminds me of some of the stuff that we've seen out of like Palo Alto, for example, in recent days. Or like a Sick K, for example. YDD does a fantastic job on the second half of this song. We have Being Myself. Cool record. I love like the swing to it. The whole like BPM and the whole vibe of this song, changes abruptly from the smoothness and almost linearity of January. It completely switches up with Being Myself, and we have that nice little swing to it, and a really addictive chorus. We have Break, which was a single that he released sometime before the record. Love the drums in the intro part, you know, dun, dun, chun, dun, 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 chun. And if there's one thing about Beenzino, is that, like a lot of like rock and punk artists, he definitely, you know, borrows from the idea of having a very defining intro riff. That's not something you always get necessarily with hip hop songs, but because you could tell that he's very in tune with, you know, rock, punk, indie rock, those kind of scenes. Like you can know a certain Beenzino track off, you know, 2 seconds, which is very familiar to the rock and punk genres. So he did a fantastic job on Break. I've spoken about this song before on various different, you know, series that I've had on this channel back when it came out, and I believe, you know, when I did the reactions to the music video, I spoke very highly of this track. I loved it. It was not the conventional Beenzino track in the slightest. Next, we have the most interesting track on the record, in my opinion, Imagine Time, featuring Suran. Now, basically, this song is a little shy of 6 minutes, and no kidding, because it's basically 2 songs. You get the first half, which is, you know, rapping on piano. It's super impassioned. I definitely had to go and look up the lyrics to this, and it was very, very interesting stuff going on here. One of the most impassioned, introspective songs that we get on this record. And I gotta say, if there's any song on this record that really encapsulates the theme, the concept of this record, it has to be this one. Even though, you know, the first song is called Time Travel, and you would think that had more to do with it, but I feel like you get a lot of like time and progression and overall, you know, narrative of my life, and looking back and looking towards the future. That's a lot what we get on this record, and I feel like Imagine Time really kind of like, you know, brings that to a climax. And then we get on the second half, one of the most beautiful moments I've heard, you know, in Beenzino's discography, and one of the best vocal performances in the Korean scene in a hot minute. Suran there on the second half. She's sounding absolutely fantastic. She's been doing some fantastic work over in the Korean game. So it was really nice to hear her on this record, and I love. But the transition from the first half to the second half was so organic and well orchestrated. I gotta, you know, give a shout out to the various producers like PJ and stuff like that who you know, worked on this record. They did an absolutely fantastic job. We have I'm So Wet, which you know, obviously with the title you can imagine some degree of, you know, the subject matter. Definitely smooths out. We have some kind of like R&B-esque kind of deliveries on here. He's definitely singing mode on this one. This is not one of the records that you're gonna get like crazy bars from, but I think it's a fantastic transition from Imagine Time. And then that leads us into Dali Von Picasso, which completely surprised me that it was on this record. At this point, this song has to be like 2 years old. And the craziest thing is that this was the song that got me into Beenzino to begin with. This song came out and I started listening to it. I was like, yo, this guy's fantastic. And I basically followed him since, and then I went back and listened to 24, 26 and Up All Night. So to hear this on this record, it really interesting. But the cool thing is that Beenzino's sound is so consistent and solidified that a song from 2 years ago fits so perfectly on his record. It doesn't feel dated at all. It doesn't feel like an old track. If you weren't familiar with Beenzino, and I never mentioned that Dali Von Picasso is a pretty old song at this point, you would never know. So I don't really need to speak too deeply on Dali Von Picasso. You know, I've talked about this track before a while ago. But yeah, this is definitely, in my opinion, probably Beenzino's best song of his discography. You know, it's definitely one of his biggest hits. But just, you know, it really encapsulates his love for the art world and his basically overall, you know, rapping style, along with some real clean, warm production. And then it ends off the record with We Are Going To, another song that he's released. Gotta say, before I, you know, wrap up the full project, another interesting is, like, you know, sometimes the Korean game, they'll release so many singles and then put them all on the record. And like for Dean example, it's kind of like a complaint of mine. that we don't get too much original material when a new record comes out, just because so much of it has been released. And out of this, I mean, I'm looking, we got 1, 2, 3. So out of the 11 songs, we've seen 3 of them before. But I gotta say, we've gotten so much good material of him over the years. I'm surprised he didn't include the other song that he released, Life in Color or something like that. He didn't include that on the record. That was kind of interesting, just because he went back and included Taliban Picasso, but he didn't include Life in Color, that came out like literally maybe 2 weeks before this record. So that surprised me. I literally thought that was going to be the lead single of this project, but apparently not. But yeah, man, love this record. We are going to, I've spoke about this so many times, second half, those really anthemic kind of, in your face vocals, and the way it's layered along with the kind of raw, like the instrumentation on the first half of the song. Great way to end off the record. Gotta say, I love this album. Now, I've read some places calling this his, like, after 7 or 8 years or something like that since he debuted, we're getting his first debut album, which confused me because I swear 24-26 is a full-length album too, even though it's only like 9 tracks, and I know Up All Night is an EP. So I'm assuming this is actually probably his second record, if I'm not mistaken, but correct me in the comment section below if I'm incorrect about that. Yeah, man, Illionaire is so lucky to have this guy. He's just such a fantastic, craftsman of music and artist, and just some of the melodies he incorporates into his bars, and some of the subject matter and the beat choices and the way he really crafts a project. Man, I think he's doing some really special stuff, especially in the whole art rap scene that we have a lot this stateside, and I feel like he's bringing something really, really fresh to the Korean rap scene, especially in, the fact that a lot of Korean artists are really, really trying to emulate some of the styles that they've heard over here in the US. The cool thing about Beenzino is that he really original to, who he is. He's original to, and he sticks to who has inspired him to this point, but at the same time tries to reinvent the genre as a whole. So I appreciate Beenzino, love this project. Ranking up against his previous projects, I gotta say, as a full body of work, I think it's probably his best. I don't know if this necessarily has like his best songs in it per se. I mean, Taliban Picasso is his best song, but Up All Night definitely got some bangers on there like Crazy and stuff like that. So gotta say, I think this is probably his best body of work. He's definitely improving, both in his vocal deliveries, his bars, and overall how to construct a full cohesive project. Curious as to what y'all thought about it, so in the comment section below, let me know what you thought about this album. What do you think about Beenzino? How do you think this compared to his previous releases? What's your favorite song on this record? Let me know what's up. Till next time, this is JV. I love you guys. Bye.